How many unique cards can we create using the same technique before it starts to feel boring? Welcome to a new mini-series where I explore the art of card making with my special wet-in-wet stenciling technique. Did she just say wet-in-wet stenciling? Yes. Does this sound messy? It certainly might be, but isn't there something wonderful about a little creative chaos on the craft desk? Join me as I embrace the fun and freedom of this technique and let's unleash our creativity together. Hi there, this is Luise Heinzl. Nice to see you here today. Thanks for joining me. Before we dive into the materials and mediums we are going to need for today's card, I would like to give you a quick little note in the beginning of this video regarding to the technique which is behind all of the cards I will show you within this mini series. So during December 2024, by the way, December is a series in December where we make ephemera for our junk journals, and it's hosted by my friend Barbara at 49 Dragonflies and myself, just in case you don't know what December is. But during this series, back in December 2024, I discovered a technique which was, for me, absolutely mind-blowing, and for many of you, obviously, as well, because that video went a little bit viral on my channel. I think approximately 60,000 people have already watched that video. That makes me so happy. And I thought perhaps it is good, if you haven't seen the other video yet, that you watch that first before you watch this and the other videos in this little series. So I have linked the video down below again for you so that you can watch that perhaps first. Perhaps you want to pause this video and watch the other one first, because in that video I explain this main idea, this technique I have discovered in every detail you can imagine. I will not go into so crazily many details within these card making videos because I want to use this technique as a base. Yes, that's the idea behind that, but I want to focus more on the design of the card and how we can use this technique for the card design itself, if that makes sense. So if you want to know all of the details about the technique, please go to the description box, watch the other video first. But of course, I will say some words when I do the technique, in this video as well. So what do we need for today's card? First of all, we are going to need a piece of scrap paper. This is just from a very cheap watercolor paper, but you can basically take whatever you want. I have cut this into 3 1/4 inch by 6 3/4 inch because I want to make my card exactly the size that this inner thing here has. So that means when I take this and put this on here, I can see that there is the tiniest little bit of the pattern of the stencil peeking out here, but that is good because that makes that when we take this and put the stencil on top, that the pattern of the stencil can cover the whole base of the card, and that is what I want, so that the pattern really goes to the edges of the card later. But I want to use this as a template because I want to create my card on a higher quality watercolor paper, higher quality than this is. So that's the next thing we are going to need. We are going to need some watercolor paper. I have chosen the watercolor cardstock by Holtz and Ranger, but you can obviously use also other watercolor paper. You could also try, something like a mixed media paper or so. But what you want to make sure is that the paper can handle a lot of wet mediums, like texture paste, sprays, perhaps water if you want to add that, but I will come to that point later. But you need a pretty thick paper which can handle a lot of wet mediums because you don't want to have a wave in the end but a flat card. So I have chosen this. Then we are going to need 1/2 stencils. For this card, I have chosen this stencil here, which has, as you can see, 2 different patterns. So that means if you have a stencil like this, that is wonderful, then you can use this and this as 2 separate patterns. But if you don't have something like this, but you perhaps have a stencil like this, which has like only 1 pattern, then please choose 2 stencils for this technique. When you choose the stencils, please make sure that 1 pattern has pretty much big open spaces like this here, for example, or what you also could take, I will just make some examples, is something like this, or something which has big circles, for example, or also this would work. You can see this plastic from the stencil is pretty slim and the pattern is really massive and big and solid. Yeah, we want to have 1 stencil like this with a solid pattern, and then you can choose as a second stencil something which has a little more delicate pattern, meaning where the open spaces are not so much like here. You can also think, when you want to choose that, you need something which is really a background stamp, and then something which you can put on top with some details like these letters, or what you also could combine is this here as the background and then some flowers on top or so. Yeah, but here you can see that also pretty well. This has many open spaces, a really solid and big pattern, and this has these tiny details. By the way, we are going to use this in the next video of this little series and combine this together. Yeah, so perhaps you want to watch that then as well. So this stencil here has the number THMM 121. This is by Stampers Anonymous and Tim Holtz, and it has these cool combined items here, meaning a stencil and some stamps. And that's the next thing we are going to need, some stamps. I have chosen these because, I mean, there's a reason that this is in 1 package. So because it fits well together, and I think that also with the stenciling here from this, I mean, with this pattern, it works well together, but you can basically use whatever you want. Then we are going to need some embossing ink and some embossing powder. I have chosen the Princess Gold embossing powder here today, but you can use whichever color you like. You could even try this with embossing glaze. You could take clear embossing powder or, of course, any colored embossing powder. We are going to need something to mask our stamping. So I have this stamp masking tape. As you can see, it is still in the package. I bought this brand new. I have no experience with this, but we will see if this will help us. I'm hoping that this will help. If you don't have something like this, you can try a sticky note, for example, or just some paper, and then later on be a little bit careful. I will go into detail about that later when we come to that. Then we are going to need some texture paste. I have chosen the texture paste Opaque here by Ranger and Tim Holtz, but there, the possibilities are also endless. Try whatever you have, whatever you think looks good, whatever you like, yeah, and especially whatever you have. So, yeah, palette knife, and then some colors. I like to use the spray stains and oxide sprays, but if you have any other sprayable mediums, you can use those, of course, as well. I want to make a total of 2 cards today. So that means I have chosen 2 different color palettes. That has a personal reason because I'm a little bit some kind of a freak. Because I want to make 2 cards so that I then can send one to Ted at Stampers Anonymous, and it will then stay there, and I can then keep the second card for myself. That's the reason why I'm going to make 2, and then we can also compare the color combinations and see what we like better. So for the first card, I've chosen Forest Moss. I have the oxide spray and the spray stain here, Shaded Lilac spray stain, Dusty Concord spray stain, and Seedless Preserves oxide spray. And for the, I'm a little bit nervous. And for the second card, I have chosen Mustard Seed in the spray stain and oxide spray, and Speckled Egg, also oxide spray and spray stain. I am a little bit scared because of this color. This is new to me and new in my stash, and I'm really hoping that this will work together. But I thought this color combination could be great also in combination with the gold. I just told you I have chosen the golden embossing powder, and I think that fits to both of those color combinations really well. But please choose the embossing powder, I mean the color of the embossing powder, that it matches to the sprays you have chosen. Is that all? I think we have everything here now what we need. Oh, and very important, coffee or tea or any other beverage you like to calm your nerves down. And just in case we have to freak out during this card making process, we need something, you know, to drink. Perhaps you want to consider a stronger drink than this is. So then let's take a piece or two pieces of the watercolor cardstock. I think these should be big enough. You could also take one of these big sheets. You can see these are this size. It's 8.5 by 11 inch. And when you have your template with these measurements here, you could, I think, fit 3 of those on one of these sheets. If you put it here and here, yeah, and then here, that could give you 3 card backgrounds from one sheet. But, you know, I always have these scraps here and I want to use them up. So I thought, let's just take these. I mean, it's not a difference if these are both separate pieces or if it's one piece. That makes no difference. But what I want to do now is, I want to take this, place this here pretty generously to the edge here. And then I want to take a pencil. I want to this pencil sharpener is a disaster. I want to trace this to my watercolor cardstock. What is this? I mean, what? Okay. Oh, and we want to use the smooth side of the watercolor paper, so I will turn that around. It has a pretty extreme texture here, and that makes stamping pretty difficult, so I use the smooth side. Then I put this here. Yeah, let's make it perhaps like this, so that we have approximately half of an inch distance here and here and here and here. So that we have possibilities to cut this into the right size later. So that means I'm not so sure if I really want to cut the card later, there where the stenciling ends, or if I perhaps will cut that a little bigger. And to make sure where my stenciling and my stamping is, I want to have this little guide here, or how can I say that in English? So I will do that here as well. And this also now helps to find the position for the stamping. Because I want to take these stamps now and I want to find my arrangement for the stamping first before I do anything else. And I thought this cool quote, "Hope is never lost," would look really nice here in the left bottom corner. And then I want to take this here. Let's see, I need a diagonal somehow, because I will explain in a second what I'm thinking here. So I put this here because I want to have parts of this quote on my stenciling, which will go on the card here later, and this area of the card shall be without stenciling. That will make sense when you see when I do it. But for that, I try to imagine where the stenciling approximately goes. Then we are going to take, oh, that is something I missed telling you for the mediums and materials. We need some ink for stamping, but I think you can quickly grab that. This is archival ink jet black, but you can use whatever you want. I will ink this, but just, you know, this, I don't want to have this perfect because I want to have the quote later on foam tape coming up a little bit. So that means I only need to see where the quote has to go, yeah, but just the tiniest little bit. I will quickly make it a little darker here so that you can see it better. But if you do this at home, then you can see that it's not really necessary to have this really black. I mean, yeah, it's just for orientation, where we later on will put the quote on a little sign. Then I'm going to take my embossing ink and put that to the flower, because I want to emboss the flower in gold. Oh, where's my little tool? Oh, that is way easier. Yesterday there happened a really cool thing. I found the coolest picture frame I have ever seen on the street. Just, you know, someone didn't want to have that anymore, and he has put that to the street and has made a little sign here, you can take it if you want. And I found it, and it's pretty big and really massive. It's like, you know, a wooden golden frame for hanging to the wall. And I had to take that home with my own hands. I don't have a car, and I felt a little bit, you know, it would have been embarrassing to to call a taxi or so. So I had this picture frame here on my fingers, and I had to lift it up, and it's really heavy. But that made that my fingers, I mean, I don't have a feeling in my fingers now because of this picture frame. And that makes this thing come in really handy. But now we will take this and we will emboss this stamping. Woo! Holy cow. Okay. I would say this is perfection. Looks really cool. So I will quickly do exactly the same thing for my other card. So here we go. Now I have 2 of these. And the next thing we want to do is we want to create a mask of the flower. For that, we can either take this masking tape. By the way, this one is by Craft Emotions and it's called Stamp Masking Tape. Or a sticky note, or, you know, just a little piece of paper, which is not sticky, but then you would need to be very careful later to apply the stenciling. I would suggest something which sticks. So how do we need to do this now? I need a piece which is the size of the flower. And shall I then stick that on here, or how is that meant to be, to do? I have no idea. I guess this could work. I've never used this before. Then we ink the stamp this. And if we have brought a heavy picture frame to our home, we take this tool, then it's easier. So that is good enough. I want to leave a tiny frame. Can you see? I'm going to take some tape to tape this down. And we place this over the embossed thing here, so that we don't get the texture paste on the flower. Then we are going to take this, and depending on what kind of stencil you have to go a little different now, because when you have such a divided stencil, then this background pattern is obviously not big enough. So that means you have to do that in 2 steps. First here and then here. If you have a stencil like this and a second one with the other pattern, you can just put it here, go through it, and then you are done with the first layer. I have to What do you want from me? I have to do that now a little differently, but that really doesn't matter. I put this here, exactly there where I can see my pencil marks. To be 100% sure that nothing will go wrong here, I put a little bit of tape here just to make sure that the stencil can't run away. So then we are going to take our texture paste Opaque, a spatula. Oh, perhaps I should. Wait, I'm sorry. Perhaps we should take something. We can take just the rest from this, which we can put here so that we can see through the stencil until where we want to have the texture paste, because I want to have the paste here, but not here. So we go with the texture paste through the stencil. In my case, only until here. This first layer is not so very thick, but you want to make sure that you have a good amount of the texture paste there. If you have a stencil with where the pattern is on the whole stencil, you are done with this step, then you can just lift the stencil up. In my case, I need to remove this. I will just piece it on here like so. I'm just realizing that we also now need to cover up this area there, otherwise we will get a disaster. There will where our quote is, because now we are going to take the colors from our first color palette. I want to start with Forest Moss. The texture paste is still wet. And that is the cool thing about this technique, because we will not wait for this to dry. We will just spritz this on here. Let's then go on with Dusty Concord. This is the spray stain. A little bit of shaded lilac spray stain there on the top, perhaps. Oh yes, I like that. Oh, well, perhaps we should try to get a little bit here as well. Don't be confused, this will change later completely. I mean, perhaps it doesn't make sense at all to think about what you are doing here right now, because in the end this will look completely different. So this is Seedless Preserves Oxide Spray. What I'm trying to say is, let's try to not overthink this whole thing. So the texture paste and also the spray are still wet. We take our stencil again, but this time the second one. So in my case, this bottom part, if you have two stencils, you just take the second stencil which has these more delicate things, a more delicate pattern. We are going to try to line this up, and now we stencil through this again. Yes, you've heard right. With doing that, we create some kind of a sludge color-wise. That is what we want to have. It's exactly what I want to have. Don't be scared. Go over this carefully, but as long as you want to get this color, which is obviously, you know, it gets mixed here now from the colors we already have on the card. We are going to take this off. And what happened here, I will show you that in a second. When I take this off, I will quickly do the same thing here on the other half. That looks already pretty good. Now, what do we need to do next? We need to take this off carefully. Ooh, and that is pretty good because now the flower mask also automatically comes off because it was sticking to this piece. That is good. Oh, it works. I'm so sorry. I mean, I have never done this before, yeah? I thought this is good, this is a good idea. Let's start the camera, let's make this series and let's just record this. Oh my goodness. Holy cow. How freaking cool is that? Okay, I can already see some things which we could improve if we want to do this then another time. Because on the one hand, I really like this white here. On the other hand, there's something I really don't like, and that is that here, can you see, the spray went pretty close to the golden flower. I don't like that so much. Here as well, perhaps you want to consider, if you want to do that, to cut the mask with even more distance to the stamp impression. Here it worked pretty well. I was hoping for this distance all around, but perhaps my fuzzy cutting was not so precise. But what I really like is that we can clearly see both of the stenciled patterns, and that is exactly what this technique gives you. Because we can see this solid pattern in the background and the letters on top. And what we also have in some areas, here it worked somehow not so extremely like when I first discovered this technique. But can you see here, we have a really, really extreme texture here. And the stencil lifted a little bit of the texture paste off, and that gives this cool texture there. Here it's pretty smooth. That means that happened not so extremely, but here it worked pretty well. And here as well. If you used oxide spray and you lift the stencil up, I mean the stencil with the letters, then you get this cool effect that the oxidation obviously gets removed. Can you see that here? There, the forest moss, this yellow part of the forest moss comes through really extremely. Also here, this pink is from the oxide spray, which was seedless preserves, and the oxidation was removed there because normally the oxide spray looks like this approximately because, you know, the colors have already mixed here. But this is a really cool thing. I wish that that had happened in more spaces, but can we still, I mean, it didn't. Can we still somehow get that? A little bit. Not 100% satisfying, this thing, but take a dings here, you know, palette knife. Try to obviously not touch the letters. So, yeah, you don't want to ruin that. I mean, you could also press them and turn this into a really crazy mixed media thing. But what I'm looking for is to remove the oxidation from the first stenciling. Can you see that? Then it turns into a totally different color. Now you can see that, hopefully, even better here. Here is also now the oxidation removed a little bit, and I think that was worth the effort because we have, yeah, this diagonal flow of this yellow-ish color. I will quickly, off camera, make another mask for this flower, but I will cut it with way more distance to the stamp impression than I did it here. And then we can go on with the other color palette, which we have already here. What I just thought is, when we have something like this, why don't we try, and I have no idea what will happen now. Can that work? I have no idea. And let's then go through the whole stencil. I know that makes not so much sense when we think about what I said before, because I have talked about the solid pattern and the delicate pattern of the stencil, but I just thought, can it work that we take this and for the second layer turn the stencil upside down? Will that work? This is so crisp and clear. I love this. And you can immediately see the difference. Can you see here is so much open space? I'm really not sure if this will work now, but we will try that out. So let's add some spray. Let's start with Speckled Egg Spray Stain, mustard seed. Oh, this color scares me a lot, but we will do it. And then both of those colors as oxide spray. So this is Speckled Egg. And then the mustard seed oxide spray. Let's take some forest moss oxide spray as well. I'm assuming that the yellow in here fits really well to this. Everything is still wet. We take the stencil upside down, like so. I'm not so amazed. And do you know why not? This proves why the first layer should be a solid pattern and the second layer a more delicate pattern, because here it's the opposite order, and we can clearly see that that is not so good. I mean, we will still make this work. I'm a junk journaler who makes a card here, so I will make this work. I want to cry. Why? Why did this go under the tape? I mean, yeah, well, it's not sticking so well, Luise. You can imagine why that happened. I think I already have an idea how we can solve this problem, because I mean, this looks a little bit terrible, but we will solve that. So look here, the numbers and the other pattern are visible. Can you see? And that turned out really, really well, I think. Here, the oxidation got lifted up in this area. I like that so much. This is really, really cool. But here, the solid pattern is overlapping the letters. I mean, we can't see the letters here anymore, but somehow the longer I look at this, the more I like it. And do you know why? Because this pattern here is repeated. You can see it's here, and it's how do you say that in English? It's repeating here, but in the foreground, and here it's in the background, and that is pretty cool.
Some folks go fishing, others do puzzles. There's hikers and bikers, wise men knit scarves, Netflix and chill, or dancing all night, yoga at sunrise, or bathed in a pie. But oh, I'm a steppers and no anonymous. Stamps and stencils and addiction that doesn't hurt. Paper and ink, that's where my heart is. You do you, but I can't resist this. Oh, I'm a Stampers Anonymous. Nature's moments, where it all began. The professor, the inspector, Mona sketchbook, oh man. Urban tapestry, spooky stuff, moth study and flutter. Tidy text and ledger script, they all matter. Eclectic adverts and crazy birds too. Tim and Ted have a stamp set for every...
As you can see, I changed my mind a little bit about what I'm doing here and the arrangement of the card. It's already the next day and both of these are obviously completely dry now. But with this little distance, you know, I made this yesterday and then I went to my bed and now I'm here again. I can see that even if this is not finished yet, that I don't like this irregular shape so much. And also we have these little oopsies here with the ink. I already have an idea how we can still use this, but from this and from seeing that I don't like this, I went on with my thoughts and came to the idea to make a little different arrangement for my card. So I will do exactly the same with this technique on this card here now. And I make a second one so that we have both of the color combinations on this squared card with the circle as well. And then we can go on with all four. Yeah, so we have then 4 backgrounds where we can go on.
But oh, I'm a stampers and no, not a muss. Stamps and stencils and addiction that doesn't hurt. Paper and ink, that's where my heart is. You do you, but I can't resist this. Oh, I'm a Stampers Anonymous. Nature's moments, where it all began. The professor, the inspector, Mona sketchbook, oh man. Urban tapestry, spooky stuff, moth study and flutter. Tiny text and ledger script, they all matter. Eclectic adverts and crazy bursts. Too Tim and Ted have a stamp set for every mood. But oh, I'm a stampers and
I'm just realizing I have this die cut set here with the Wildflower stamps. The number is 661190 by Sizzix and Holtz. And I thought that we can use the set to cut our stamp impressions, but I'm just realizing, well, this seems to fit, but this is a little bit shorter here and different here. Why? I have no idea. Obviously this is not meant to use together, but I want to try to use exactly this little difference in size as an advantage. I mean, obviously you could also take your scissors and cut this out, but when I do that, I don't like that so much because I'm not so good in fuzzy cutting things, so I thought we do it like this. But if I won't have this die cut set, then I would probably cut them by hand. But let's see if this can work, what I have in my mind. So I will cut these out, and I will do that multiple times so that I have more than one of each of the flowers. So then let's take these little things here where I have cut the flowers out, and hoping that this will work. I have never done this before. I take this. Well, let's do perhaps one at a time so that I can press this down really well. I will put this back in here. Oh, okay. I have not expected that. Holy moly. When this is in here, it's perfect. Okay, then I think we can do multiple of the flowers at the same time. I first thought that is not possible because my paper comes up there, but that is possible. And now I want to try, since the stamps are not exactly the same size like these die cuts, to stamp with embossing ink on here, then emboss that with golden embossing powder, but a little bit offset. So that means Oh no. Is this even... Tim! Why? Oh no. Oh no, this is even mirrored. Oh no. Oh no, it can't work. Or is my brain now weird? No, it can't work. Oh no. Because this is the other direction. No. Oh no. Why have you done it like that, Tim? Why? No, no, no. I mean, what happens? Well, since I have puzzled these in here now, yeah, I want to try something. What happens if I take this, just, you know, randomly somehow on here? What happens if I take this and put this on here, even if it's mirrored, and then stamp and emboss it and see what we get? We will do this now. Because if we don't do it, we will never know if this could be nice. Let's surprise ourselves. So I will quickly put my embossing ink on here with my dabber and then emboss that with golden embossing powder. I can't tell you how much I appreciate those weird moments when you do something. I mean, of course, it would have been nice if the stamp set and the die cuts would have been the same size. But then we would have some normal, not boring, not ugly or so, but some normal flowers. But this is something truly special, isn't it? So both of these are dry now, and I'm so in love with this texture. I mean, take a look at this, especially here. And look how the oxidation is outlining these letters. This is just so cool. And then I will quickly take these and cut around here so that we then get the final, you know, size of these things. And don't forget to take your junk journal medicine in between. Before we think about what to do with these ink oopsies, I want to find, yeah, like approximately the position for these. So then we have these, and we know that we need these for both of these cards. So I will put that aside for a second so that we can put our focus on these. So here, this quote, "Hope is never lost," will go into the circle. And I thought when that is there then in the circle, we could perhaps make this arrangement here. I haven't used this shape on the other cards, so that means we could even layer two of these here, so that this thing is not so thin here. With only one of these, it is a little bit thin, but like this, it is obvious. We need circles which are this size. So I have cut out two of these circles, and I also have another piece of watercolor paper here so that I can stamp the quote for the other cards on that and then cut it rectangular. And I want to emboss my stamping with black embossing powder to make this stand out really, really well.
Some folks go fishing, others do puzzles. There's hikers and bikers, wise men knit scarves, Netflix and chill, or dancing all night. Yoga at sunrise or baked in a pie. But oh, I'm a steppers and no, not a must. Stamps and stencils and addiction that doesn't hurt. Paper and ink, that's where my heart is. You do you, but I can't resist this. Oh, I'm a Stampers Anonymous. Nature's moments, where it all began. The professor, the inspector, Mona sketchbook, oh man. Urban tapestry, spooky stuff, moth study and flutter. Tiny text and ledger script, they all matter. Eclectic adverts and crazy birds too. Tim and Ted have a stamp set for every mood. But oh, I'm a stampers and no, not a must.
But what I also want to do is I want to take these and also the rectangles and go around here with my scissors to make this edge a little more interesting. So then I have quickly taken a photo of this arrangement so that I can later on remember how this was. And then I will take these little flowers off for a moment, so that we then can solve this problem here. For problems like this, I like to take the paintbrush of my grandma, because that helps me to don't freak out, because I know this is now a little bit dangerous, but I want to have this white gone. I have a paper towel here and the colors we have used to make the background. So I want to try to paint the white areas, and since the embossing powder acts like a resist now, the spray can't dry on this surface, and that is good. Concentration. This is already pretty good. I will do the same thing on the other card and then let everything dry. I love Ranger mediums. This is perfection. This turned out so, yeah, I have to admit, unexpectedly well. I am totally speechless. It's not completely dry here yet, but I think we can go on, and I'm totally surprised how well this worked, so that the colors really fit and that we can't see anymore that we did this after we did this. So I take a dry paper towel, and now I think I need the tiniest bit of water. But just a little bit, so that I can clean the embossed flower from the mediums, because they will not dry on here, and because of that I can remove them here, because, you know, as I said, this is like a resist, the embossing powder. Let's take our photo so that we then are able to glue the flowers to the card. For doing that, I will use some collage medium.
Yoga at sunrise or baked in a pie. But oh, I'm a stampers and no, not a must. Stamps and stencils and addiction that doesn't hurt. Paper and ink, that's where my heart is. You do you, but I can't resist this. Oh, I'm a Stampers Anonymous.
These and some foam tape so that I can glue them on there with a little distance to the background. Yeah, I don't like that this is so, like, you know, it's one color with this. Oh, I have an idea. Let's take some gilding wax. I have this waxed paste. sorry, wax paste metallic by Craft Emotions here. I mean, it's not the same gold like the embossing, but I think that is not so important. Yeah, that is good. I will take some... Oh, if I can open this. Holy moly. What is that? Okay. I can't get this jar open. What is this now? Oh no. That looks like a creepy creature. Let's take some acrylic paint, mix that with some water, just test if it's... Oh, that is good. Okay. Here on this card, I try to get the splatters a little bigger, because then they are more visible on this darker background. But this looks really good. We could try to make something like that there as well. Oh, yeah. Oh, that is good. Ah, yeah, I like that. Let's then go on with this one and the other one. Here, I think I don't want to add foam tape. Yeah, because when I put this in here, it looks like embedded into the background. I like that better than having it, you know, raised. I think here I want splatters in gold. I'm going to take tarnished brass distress paint. This is already mixed with some water. But I think I will additionally add black, perhaps also on both, so that I mean here it will be not so visible because the background is so dark, but it will be visible on the flowers, and I really like that on the others. Okay, I think this is already dry enough so that we can carefully attach these. And while the splatters are drying, I will decide for the colors for the backing of the card, and I will also cut those with my paper trimmer just a little bigger than the card itself, so that we then can add that as well. So here we go. I've decided for gold and white for both of these, and I will assemble this with the help of some giant double-sided tape. And then this can go on here. And this can go on here. Oh. Very important that you stick your finger to the tape as well, in between of these layers. That makes it even more fun. Please pay attention to that and don't miss that step. 99999. What is that? Oh, 9999. Oh no, something was. Oh no, it's from here. Oh, this was not completely dry. I forgot that. Oh, I want to throw an F-bomb, but I will not. Okay. Why? I want to freak out. Why does this always happen to me? Like, 5 seconds before I am done. Why? I mean, that is not fair. What have I done? I mean, you could say it's karma or something, but I have done nothing. I have made some cards and that's all. I mean, what is this? Okay, now I need to make an operation. Palette knife. Well, pokey tool, that could also work. Oh man. Give me something. Give me something to touch this card. The funny thing is, before this happened and when I decided for the colors of this, I even thought about a paper clip here, and then I thought, no, I don't want to do that. And now, well, I think this is nice, isn't it? And since these are siblings, the cards, I will take another of these and try to somehow get that on there in the same way like on the other hand. I don't know yet what I shall think about this, but perhaps you want to tell me what you think about this. I think when I look at this tomorrow, then it will be okay. So let's put these aside. Holy cow. And let's decide about the colors for the backing of these. Since these have already a white frame here, I mean, that looks like there was already another paper underneath. I'm thinking, shall we perhaps just go with brown cardstock and just, one layer, because then we have white and a little bit of brown here. What do you think? And I have a question. Do you have an explanation for this phenomenon? Why is this so different in color to this, even if we have used the same colors? I will probably find that out when I will edit this video, because I think I have done something different. But I really like this. I think this is even my favorite of all of the 4 cards. Yeah, well, I like grunge. And I think this gold with these colors in the background, that is just amazing. So if you want to see more card ideas with this wet in wet stenciling technique with the 2 stencils, then stay tuned for the next episodes of this little series. And don't forget to fill up your junk journal medicine and drink that while it's still hot. Otherwise, you will get beautiful, cold coffee. I'm just trying to be funny in English. See you the next time. Bye bye.